Gary Bradford right here in the room, then we can kind of do a roll call and get things going.
Yeah, James, that'd be fun.
Okay.
So good morning, everyone, or I guess good afternoon. This is Vice Chair Bradford. I'd like to call the meeting of the Megaregion Working Group to order. And if you'd please, the clerk would read the virtual webcast instructions for attendees.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bradford. Attendees may opt to attend in person for public comment and observation at any of the remote locations that are noted on the agenda that was published and distributed. In-person attendees must adhere to the posted public health protocols while in their respective buildings. And then the meeting webcast is available via Zoom webinar at the location listed on the agenda. Shall I go ahead and call roll?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Starting with our MTC members and representatives, Supervisor Miley.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Manfree.
Here.
And Supervisor Mashburn.
Here.
Thank you. Transitioning to our San Joaquin Council of Governments representatives, Supervisor Rickman.
Here.
Mayor Singh. He is participating as an attendee, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Singh. We see you. Mayor Ariola.
Present.
And Councilmember Zuber.
Present.
Thank you. And moving now to our SACOG representatives, Vice Chair Bradford,
Here.
Supervisor Baines,
Present.
Councilmember Howdeshelt,
Here.
and Councilmember Schaefer is absent. Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. I'll turn the meeting back over to Chair Miley.
All right.
Item 2.
Well, thank you. Yeah, sorry for just getting in. We were on another platform. So I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Megaregion Working Group. The clerk will be webcasting and will provide webcasting instructions. Have you done that already?
We did, Chair Miley. I think we're
Okay,
on
good.
item 2.
Okay, great. Let's see then. So this is approve rotation of Megaregion Chair and Vice Chair in 2026 to SACOG and SJCOG respectively. This item is to formally rotate Chair and Vice Chair to SACOG and SJCOG for 2026 for working group approval. We will then elect the SACOG Chair and the SACOG Vice Chair in the next item. Are there any working group members that would like to comment on this item? Is there any public comment?
Chair, there is no public comment, no hands raised.
Okay, do you have a motion and a second to approve the rotation of the Megaregion Chair and Vice Chair in 2026 to SACOG and SJCOG respectively? So I think I heard a motion from someone.
Chair, that was Councilmember Howdeshelt.
Yep. Okay, and a second by
Supervisor Rickman.
Supervisor Rickman made the second. Okay, very good. So would the clerk please call the roll on the vote?
Thank you. Chair Miley,
Aye.
Supervisor Anderson,
Aye.
Supervisor Manfree,
Aye.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Rickman,
Yes.
Mayor Singh,
Yes.
thank you, Mayor Ariola,
Yes.
Councilmember Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Councilmember Howdeshelt,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schaefer is absent. Motion carries.
Very, very good. So now we'll move to agenda item 3 to elect the Megaregion Chair and Vice Chair. This item is to formally elect a chair from the SACOG representatives and a vice chair from SJCOG representatives for 2026 for working group approval. Are there any public comments associated with this item? Is there anything, clerk?
No, sorry, there's no public comment.
Okay, we will start with our chair from SACOG. Chair Bradford served as vice chair in 2025. Is SACOG putting forward Supervisor Bradford to be chair for 2026?
Yes, I nominate Chair Bradford.
He's been nominated. Is there a second? Did somebody second it?
Howard Schultz seconds.
Okay, I'm taking it the clerk got all that.
Yes,
So we have a motion. So can we have the roll call on that, please?
Thank you, Chair Miley.
Aye.
Supervisor Anderson,
Aye.
Supervisor Manfree,
Aye.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Rickman,
Yes.
Mayor Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Ariola,
Yes.
Councilmember Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Councilmember Haudashelt,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schaefer is absent. Motion carries.
All right, very good. Thank you. Congratulations, Chair Bradford. So we will next go and we will elect our vice chair from SJCOG. So Executive Director Nugent, who are you and your representatives putting forward for vice chair?
Thank you, Chair Miley. The San Joaquin Council of Governments puts forward Councilmember Leo Zuber from the city of Ripon.
Very good. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Supervisor Rickman, I'll move the motion.
Moved by Rickman, is there a second?
Second. Councilman Howard Schultz seconds.
Okay, I think we got 2 seconds, but the clerk, did you?
Ram job, did you?
Yes,
who
I noted
seconded?
that. I noted the second. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so can we have a roll call on this?
Thank you, Chair Miley,
Aye.
Supervisor Anderson,
Aye.
Supervisor Manfree,
Aye.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Rickman,
Yes.
Mayor Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Ariola,
Yes.
Councilmember Zuber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bradford,
Aye.
Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Councilmember Haudashelt,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schaefer is absent. Motion carries.
Excellent. So I'm very proud and very pleased and very relieved to introduce our chair, Gary Bradford, and our vice chair, Leo Zuber, for the 2026 Megaregion Working Group. It has been a pleasure being the chair. I think I had an opportunity to chair maybe 2 meetings as chair over the past year. And I'm excited to continue serving on this body. I will now formally hand over the chair duties to Chair Bradford.
Great. Thank you, Past Chair Miley, for your service last year. And thank you to my fellow work group members for electing me to serve as chair this year. Congratulations to Vice Chair Zuber as well. I appreciate the staff at all 3 of our agencies and the current and past work group members for setting the foundation for this strong partnership. I've been a representative to the work group since 2023, and I've had the opportunity to participate in 2 of our advocacy days in Sacramento. And so I'm excited to be your chair. Vice Chair Zuber, would you like to share any remarks?
Just a couple. I've been on this committee for quite a while, and it's been interesting to me to see how it's developed into what we have now is, to me, a very effective group of people who work together to promote various aspects of transportation in our region. And I think over time, it's going to show that it's a very effective group to work with. And I look forward to serving this year with the chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So due to some time constraints, we're going to go ahead and skip ahead to agenda item 6, legislative updates, SB 375 modernization and state transportation funding. This is an information item for this legislative update. We have invited two speakers to present on key legislative issues this year. Executive Director Corliss will introduce our speakers.
Thank you very much, Chair Bradford. Really my pleasure to have two really great speakers today. The first I want to introduce, I've worked a lot when I've been here, my last 9 years at SACOG, Daryl Steinberg. Daryl is a national advisor in Manat, Phelps and Phillips, LLP's government advocacy and contracting practice. Of course, before that served as state mayor of Sacramento for the last 8 years. And before that, an esteemed state legislature who crafted key legislation that impacts all of our work, SB 375, SB 743. I want to turn this over to Mayor Steinberg, since you do have a time constraint. We're really delighted to have you here, and I'll introduce Manny after you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, James. And thank you, Chair Bradford, and members of the Megaregion Working Group. I have been privileged to be asked to consult with not only SACOG, but the Los Angeles SCAG and San Diego and the Bay Area and CalCog to see if I could provide advice and facilitation around how we might, and get the legislature to modernize my bill, SB 375 from 2007. And as I've joked many times, I thought I had written the perfect bill back in 2007. But it turned out that wasn't the case, as none of these bills are perfect. It was written at a time when the legislature was not paying much attention to the housing crisis, and when we were just beginning, really, as a state to grapple with the issues of climate and climate change. And so now you've had 18 years of experience and a number of rounds of the Sustainable Community Strategies process to know its strengths and its weaknesses. And I think it's important, because we focus on the critique and the weaknesses, to acknowledge that there have been many strengths and good and great things that have come out of 375. The level of genuine regional cooperation, the dialogue that has been created among and between not only public officials from different jurisdictions, but with the private sector as well, and with the state of California. It has changed the planning paradigm in California while never violating the principle of local control. And so, there has been much legislation since then, including the famous, or depending on one's perspective, infamous SB 743, which was known as the King's Bill, the bill to save the Kings, that I authored in 2013, but had a number of other provisions, including allowing the local jurisdictions to substitute out the level of the LOS standard for traffic mitigation in exchange for vehicle miles traveled, VMT, which was seen at the time as a way to make it, to objectify traffic impact and reduce the litigation and the controversies over traffic. So fast forward 18 years, there have been good things, but there have been some problems. And the problems that your team at SACOG, at MTC, at CalCog, among all the metropolitan planning organizations have identified are pretty common. Namely, that the process of doing an SCS is expensive, it may be overly complex, and the review of these SCSs from your perspective is overly technical. And that the Air Resources Board, despite good intentions, because everyone has good intentions, has been a little bit more of a gotcha technical compliance reviewer, as opposed to a partner with the regional governments around how to actually implement the projects that are going to make an SCS work. When you combine that with the famous loss of redevelopment funding back in after SB 375 was passed, the fact that many now transportation funding sources are geared more or less to roads and to highway construction, there isn't a lot of what we call funding alignment or funding support for you to ensure that the projects within the SCSs get the level of state funding combined with federal and local funding that would make these SCSs more meaningful and more impactful. So over the last 6 months, I've been brought on to see if I might lead a process, and it is a process by which we could come to some conclusions about what substantively needs to change, and secondly, how we build a coalition around what we want to see change so that we have an actual chance of success. When you talk about shifting money around to benefit us, begs the question, well, who's losing the money if we're going to do it this way in an era where there isn't much new money? So I started by speaking to a lot of the stakeholders individually, which then led to 3 major 50-person approximately stakeholder conversations in Sacramento, where I asked 15 questions, and we can get you a copy of all those questions about all of the underlying issues relating to 375, 743, housing element compliance, and all of it. And what came out of it were several things. One, a very clear articulation by the MPOs, what you want and what you say you want, which is to not divest the ARB completely from the SCS process, but to share the responsibility with another agency, the California Transportation Commission, and to have there sort of be a bit of a check and a balance on the ARB so that they know that they need to be part of making these plans work, not just the unending delays in approval and technical compliance issues. And I'm generalizing here, but I'm trying to give you a big lay of the land here. We also want to propose a number of shifts in funding streams, from SB1 planning funds to the congested corridor funding, to devolve some of that to the AHCS, which is another bill of mine, the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities Fund, to try to redirect, I'll throw out a number, $300 to $500 million a year to regional governments so that you can better plan and implement these SCSs. And then to move to an 8-year planning cycle instead of 4-year planning cycle so that you don't have to go through this every 4 years. And to look to see if there might be some regulatory relief on the front end as you're developing these SCSs. CEQA is important, but maybe there are alternatives to CEQA that allow for a full review and public accountability on the SCSs without it being subject to excessive litigation. So that's it in a square box, but there's more than that. Because if you're going to get to goal in the legislature, then my counsel has been and continues to be, how do you build a coalition of business, namely builders and transportation road folks, Transportation California, with the environmental community to support what you want and need, the good government, and at the same time address some of the things they're unhappy about. And they're less unhappy about SB 375 on the business side than they are about SB 743 and the VMT. And the environmental community is less unhappy about SB 375 than they are about their perception, again, these are all points of view, that Caltrans and highway construction run circles around the regional planning process. And they want it brought in so that highway construction is held to the same GHG accountability that you are within the SCSs. So we're trying to both get what you want and build this coalition so that there's broad support for a larger package. And it is, let's just say, a work in progress. The big private stakeholders are not yet ready to jump at my perfect, great ideas about how to build this coalition. And that's probably natural because until the process gets going and there's bills in front of people and there's pressure and they have to make choices, they're not going to necessarily do that. But we have set a table and we have laid a really good foundation for what I hope will be a really productive year on your behalf and maybe or maybe not brings in some of these other issues that are related and unrelated to 375, but related to the whole issues of planning, housing, and transportation. And so a bill will be introduced, I'm sure, in the next month that will probably contain what we want. And then the question will be, how do we build that coalition, and how do we have success? That's my report. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, just kidding. All right. Very good. Okay. And I've got to go. Okay. Thank you so much. I apologize for my schedule. I just have something I have to get on. Okay.
I remember it.
Do you remember that, Bruce? Yeah. It was good.
Late Jim Coyle and I were sitting.
Yeah. You know what? We put together the Coalition of the Impossible back then. And I think we can do it again. There you go. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. James, I'll let you introduce our next speaker as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bradford. Again, we've got some great speakers for you all this afternoon, and up next is Manny Leon. Manny is the consultant staff director for the Senate Transportation Committee. Manny has had decades of experience in transportation, really knows it top to bottom. And we wanted Manny just to come this afternoon to tell us a little bit from your perspective, Manny, about sort of the year ahead, issues you see coming. Obviously, transportation funding is key on everybody's mind. SB1 and some of the SB1 programs, any kind of policy changes that might be afoot, in addition to what Mayor Steinberg just described. So we're really lucky to have Manny here today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I don't know how I'm going to follow up Mr. Steinberg. You know, he has a lot of experience public speaking, and so forgive me if I'm not as eloquent. So I will say, 375 in 2007, I was a young staffer at OCTA of all places. And so to come back full circle and hear about 18 years later, it makes me think, wow, that was 18 years ago when I was at OCTA and this bill was moving along. So I'll start off with just maybe 2 or 3 high level things that we're seeing that are coming forth this year from the transportation perspective. And then I'll focus my time kind of on the funding piece, because I think that is very imperative to many things that Mr. Steinberg was talking about with the working group, as well as just as a whole. And so while these may not be completely in your space from the transportation perspective, the two of the biggest issues that I think we're going to see this year, one for sure is e-bikes. And again, you know, from a planning perspective, I mean, you know, this is more boots on the ground, but I will say that at some point it may percolate up some one way, shape, or form. But there are multiple pieces of legislation that are going to come out this year on e-bikes. There was a very significant report that came out in December on e-bikes and legislative recommendations. And so speaking of this, although this is a mega regional working group, I see you're all supervisors or council members, so you can take this home. You're going to see a lot of bills on this. Senators have actually had some workshops in their districts on this issue, and it all revolves around safety, the manufacturing thereof, and what can be operated on our roads. And so this is going to be a big deal. We at the Senate, you know, we were trying to see if we could squeeze in an informational hearing on this at the beginning of the year, based on another issue that I'm going to bring up, and our obligation to have a high-speed rail hearing. We won't be able to do that at the beginning of the session, but we are looking at potentially, if there's available time slots in the summer, to maybe even have a hearing on e-bikes, informational hearing on e-bikes. We wanted to get ahead of it and do it at the beginning. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work out based on other priorities that we have to take care of. And so that I will say, keep an eye out, because it's going to be huge. The other big deal, again, somewhat in the transportation space, but it's also in the public safety space, is the DUI reckless driving issues. There's been quite a few articles and stories about DUIs and reckless driving over the last 6 months. And so there's already been a few rollout of bills this last week on for lack of a better term, making changes to the penalties associated with those type of misdemeanors and felonies. And so we're gonna see some bills on that too. It does hit the transportation space with respects to DMV and the operation of a vehicle, but there's also the public safety side with the courts and kind of the decisions that are processed through the judicial process that also will be an issue that I think will be at least introduced and addressed. I don't know what the success of those will be, but that is something that's going to be big on the forefront again this year too. This, no doubt, when Mr. Steinberg's talking about, is going to be another issue. I see it as a bill, though. These are going to be multiple bills coming out. E-bikes and the DUI, reckless driving. You're going to see multiple bills on that. Whereas this is a big issue, but I think there may be one or two, if I'm correct, on that matter that will take up a lot of time. Taking a step back and looking at transportation issues as a whole, I spoke in this room, I think it was in December, to the Regional Transportation Agency group. It's a group that meets every year, talks about legislative issues and their platforms for the year. In that time, I came and spoke and I talked about transportation funding from taking a back step as to not only this year, but a multi-year issue. Transportation funding is going to be and is a big issue. I would say it's the most significant issue that we will have to address at some point in time. Just to give you some examples, yesterday at the CTC, there was an allocation in the shop to shift money shift money in the shop program to more emergency response projects. So what happens is the shop is a 4-year program. There's all kinds of rehabilitation program projects that are programmed in there. However, in the state highway account, one of the top expenses that goes off the top are emergency expenses. So in other words, if a bridge collapses due to a storm, there's mudslides, things of that sort, that Caltrans responds and that money comes off the top of the shop. We've seen an increase in storm damage over the years to the point where typically Caltrans would have budgeted about $500 million a year. And for the last couple of years, and we're pretty much there this year, it's gone up to $1 billion. So when you look at a 4-year, $5 billion shop program, and there is a line item for emergencies, but you have to pull from the shop in order to address those, you're taking money away from other projects, or at least pushing them out. You're not maybe taking away, but you're definitely pushing them out and squeezing that orange. In the annual report this last year in December, CTC has done the out-year projection, not out-year projections, but I'll say a 5-year outlook on money for STIP and SHOP, and you're seeing significant declines on the out years in those programs. STIP and SHOP are the major rehabilitation projects and your capacity projects. So we're talking interchanges, we're talking bridge rehabilitation, we're talking about managed lanes at some point in time. We're talking about those type of projects that you're seeing an out-year decline, no doubt, you're seeing it. And so what that means is those less resources for all the regional agencies and planning agencies out there, that's less capacity. And so you're gonna have to look either other places or you're just not going to be able to do, move those. You're gonna have to move that out of your schedule or push that out of your schedule. So you have on one end a declining revenue source. On the other end is increased costs. You have increased construction costs. You have tariffs. And on top of that, kind of to what Mr. Steinberg was saying, you have additional mitigation costs associated with many of these projects that are also running up the bill. The famous one right now is on I-5 in Los Angeles, Orange County, where the mitigation costs associated with that project is almost, I think it's equivalent to the amount of the actual construction project. There's another famous one on 680 from what I understand. And so something has to get done in order to either help or we're going to see projects continuously be squeezed or delayed. I did bring a document today. I brought 5 copies, and so if you want to scan and bring, put on your website or pass out to the online participants, we will also have this on our website pretty soon. San Jose State, the Menendez Institute, does a lot of work in this space. They did the e-bike report as well. But they've done some ongoing research on funding as a whole, ran through some scenarios, and for the most part, I want to say 7 out of the 8 are all going down. Different types of, diesel tax changes, EV increases, those type of things. All the scenarios, you'll see the graphs, they're in here. They go down. And so what we did is we asked them to put maybe like a summary of their major research together, and that's what this is. It's about a 4-page, 5-page summary of their research that you can have. And it demonstrates that we have a real problem kind of on the horizon. With that being said, one of the things I told the groups was that when you talk to your state officials, remind them that this is an issue, remind them what projects will be impacted if there isn't a remedy sometime in the near future. And that will be helpful in kind of lighting the match. And I'll end with that. Any questions you have, I'm happy to try and answer. But really, I really, in talking to the group before, and I'm glad to talk to this group and any other group, is that this is a transportation issue that affects us all, and that at some point we're going to need to address it.
Thank you, Manny. Do any of the work group members have questions for Manny? Okay, go ahead.
No, you go with your questions.
I would say
They're probably my questions.
I have one. This is actually, you may not know the answer because it's an assembly bill, not a Senate bill.
Sure.
But social media yesterday was really active about AB 1421, which is, I think, the road usage charge
Yes.
bill.
Mhm.
My understanding in my reading of the bill is that really all it did, that particular bill doesn't have any specifics in it. It just talks about continuing to kind of study that and come up with a solution. Is that a correct understanding and correct reading of the bill?
I haven't read it yet, but somebody told me today that that's pretty much the correct reading. The Assembly last year did somewhat of a roadshow on this particular matter on the road user charge. The chair on the Assembly went across the state. And I think the Senate participated in one of the initial joint hearings last year on this matter, where the researcher who that put that document together was there to talk about the issue. And so it is on the Assembly. I think it's Chair Wilson, if I'm correct, that introduced it. And it's a beginning point, as somebody what Mr. Steinberg says, I'll assume that as the bill moves along, if it moves along, there'll be more content put in as it moves and kind of works through with the stakeholders. But yes, that is a revenue source that has been widely researched in various states, including ours. Caltrans has a whole program on that. I'm not here to designate any particular revenue source, or what I hear that is kind of the lead right now with respects to research. I will say a alternative revenue source needs to be identified at some point to help with the issue that we're at hand.
Thank you. Did you have
You
another
did,
question?
because
too,
I
or-
believe Mr. Corliss was at that hearing last year about this time on road charges. I think testified at that, right?
Indeed.
All right.
Yeah.
I have some memory.
Sure.
I had a question related to transit. There was a study I thought came out at the end of the year on transit. I don't have all my to-do lists in front of me, so I can't really recall the name of it.
Sure.
But what do you see in the way of funding for transit or priorities for transit in the coming year? I happen to be the chair of the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority, so that's why I wanted to be on this mega region working group.
Okay. So that was the Transit Transformation Task Force, if I'm correct, that you're talking about. And they did a 2-year series of meetings to kind of look at transit and put forth recommendations. And they put together quite a bit of recommendations from what I understand. Some of them, I think funding was maybe a high level recommendation, like we need to address funding. I don't think that report, if I'm correct, came out with specific recommendations on potential solutions to explore. But I think funding was one. And then there was quite a few kind of maybe more tweaks to the current system, how transit operates to maybe try and improve efficiencies and things of the sort. That's what that report did for the most part. Transit funding is very important. In the Bay Area, they have a serious issue right now, right? There's a serious issue right now. One thing I said to the group in December, which I'll say here is, the gas tax, the erosion of the gas tax and the sales tax on diesel, which funds transit, you're seeing these declines. The question is that when you start talking about an alternative funding source or replacement, not an addition, a replacement, to fund what's being funded through those sources, what do you do with the expenditures, one being transit, right? And so do you replace the sales tax on diesel with a transit, some form that funds transit, or do you look at expanding and putting more money into transit with whatever revenue source that you decide, the legislature decides? So that's a very big question, right? How I see it is, if you start talking revenues, you have to talk about expenditures, and so you don't necessarily have to, but I think it's probably wise, right? And so you could potentially open up that door to talk about those things, but if there is a desire to, well, first off, there just needs to be a need to keep transit funding stable, because that's a declining source as well. And then if there is the continuous direction to increase transit as a method to address climate change, then you would need to provide more money for transit. So what does that mean? And I think that potentially could be in the conversation with the revenue side.
Last question, if I
Sure.
might. Does the advanced clean fleet rule fall under your committee or a different committee?
Not totally ours. We were what we call the secondary on that. So for example, there was a bill last year to exempt the public agencies from that, because I think the private side right now, based on the waiver not being proved. So that's really in the environmental side group. However, we touch it because it is transportation related, but we're called, in that scenario, we're the secondary. So we're looking at it from the transportation perspective, less than the complete environmental piece. They do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional work group members have questions or comments on this item?
Say it. You're up.
This is Mayor Ariola. So specifically for this group, what do you suggest that this mega group collectively advocate for in Sacramento?
Thank you, Mayor. I would say the best thing to do is the same thing I told the regional groups, which is when you talk to your electeds here, talk about the impacts to your region, to your district. What projects will be impacted? If you see a STIP or a SHOP decline, in year 3, what projects are in your schedule in that time period which could be impacted? I was talking to Ventura County a couple weeks ago, and they have a managed lane project where they're looking at going out in 29, but you're seeing declines in the STIP in 29. What does that mean for their project? They don't have a sales tax measure either. So it's like, what does that mean for that project? That's potential negative impacts. And so I would say when you are talking to your state electeds, is to talk about like what this means, what the decline means for your area, what services may need to be cut in transit if you don't have a sustainable source as it declines, what projects would be impacted if those revenue sources don't materialize.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I have a chair, through the chair. Mr. Supervisor Rickman, of course, right now in the news is the VMT. And since you were part of the State Senate Committee on Transportation, now, what I understand that this bill that they just passed is for a feasibility study that's supposed to be done by January 1st of 2027 next year, and it's supposed to go to the Budget Committee and the Transportation Committee. So my question to you, I know you don't have a crystal ball or anything, but what do you expect? What are you seeing? I mean, are you looking at a supplemental? You're looking at a replacement? And then there are questions on the equity side of it and the privacy side. Can you answer any of those, or is it just way too early to tell?
I mean, it is, we're talking about the bill that was introduced yesterday, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I would say it's very early to tell, but I will say kind of to what Mr. Steinberg was saying as well, as this bill moves, you'll see stakeholders weighing in, and, that will be a process that their chair's office, the assembly chair's office, will work through to determine what gets, ultimately included and not included. With that being said, it starts to move through the process, and then however it gets referred, I'm assuming that it potentially would be referred to us. You know, our chair will weigh in, right? We'll provide recommendations based on what the language it is that is in our committee at the time. That's very important to say too. We're going to look, all committees will look at the bill based on how they look at the bills with the language that they have at the time. And so, and then we'll talk to our chair and see if there's any recommendations or changes that they may have that then we work through with the chair. So it's kind of a multi-pronged process. You have the stakeholders that Mr. Steinberg talked about that will work with the chair's office. And then as that bill moves through committees, there will be another kind of a simultaneous, I would say, negotiation process with the chairs of those committees based on what the bill looks like when it's in their possession. The equity and private piece, those privacy pieces, that's been a longstanding issue. I couldn't speak to that until we actually know kind of maybe what the contents of it would be and based on who or how that would impact folks.
Thank you.
Okay. Additional questions? Okay, seeing none at this time, is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Manny, very much for being here and presenting on these topics. I think it's going to be super helpful for our advocacy day that's coming up. We've got that on the agenda to talk a little bit about further down. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me and please feel free to stop by when you're on your advocacy day. So thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Just for structure, we communicate with Manny through who?
Through our staff, all of our staff here, through, the government relations teams on all three of the mega region agencies, but Les Shepherd here on the SACOG team, Christina Lockey on the SACOG team. So, and I just want to say huge thank you to Manny for coming over.
Yeah.
It really has been, we were hoping to set up today. We have some new members on this larger group. And we want to kind of tee up, as Chair Bradford said, the year ahead, some of the issues that your committees and the legislature is facing. So really appreciate your time so you can help us be more effective.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we have great relationships with all the government affairs staff that you just mentioned. So feel free to go through them and they'll talk to us about whatever it is that y'all need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and back up now to agenda item 4, which is approve the mega region meeting dates and times for 2026. So this item is the mega region dates and times for work group approval. In addition to today's meeting, we're planning to meet on April 9th for our mega region advocacy day in Sacramento, and also a regular work group meeting on Friday, September 25th at the same time as this one. So are there any work group members that would have comments on this item? Okay. I don't see any. So are there any public comments associated with this?
Hold on, Gary, we got one over here.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I have a schedule conflict. Most likely on September 25th is the same. It overlaps with the Rural Counties of California Conference.
I have the same scheduling conflict. So I know Supervisor Baines here might have that as well. So the board meeting for RCRC should be over by the time that our mega region work group would happen, but we'd have to obviously take that remotely. So maybe we can work together to work with RCRC to find a location to take that call on site before we head back from Santa Barbara, if that's amenable to the supervisors.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Any additional board comment?
You looking for a motion to approve?
Let's check for public comment first.
There's no public comment.
Then yes, a motion and a second would be appreciated.
I'll move to approve the mega region meeting dates and times for 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Supervisor Rick.
Great, thank you, Supervisor. So we have a first and a second. If we could do roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Supervisor Miley,
Yes.
Supervisor Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Manfree,
Aye.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Aye.
Supervisor Rickman,
Yes.
Mayor Singh,
Yes.
Mayor Ariola,
Yes.
Councilmember Zuber,
Yes.
Chair Bradford,
Aye.
excuse me, Vice Chair Zuber, I should have included that, apologies. Supervisor Baines,
Aye.
Councilmember Haudashelt,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schaefer is absent. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Next up is item 5, introduction in 2026 look ahead. This is going to be an informational item to provide background on the Mega Region Working Group to our new members and to any public that we might have online. We're also going to be looking at some priorities for this year ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to SACOG Executive Director James Corliss to present.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair Bradford. It's great to be here at the start of another year of our Mega Region Working Group. I just want to say I've really seen this group, I think there was a comment earlier, kind of evolve over the last 6 years and be really meaningful and really make some change in terms of state funding and state policy. And really very much appreciate my colleagues, Diane Nguyen at SJCOG and Andy Premier at MTC. So I know we have a number of new members, including right here with our SACOG members. So this is a little bit of a refresher as well as a look ahead to the year. We really kind of restarted this working group in some ways, I think maybe reinvigorated it actually over the pandemic. And that was possible because honestly, we had Zoom capability. And just even though sometimes at the beginning of the year, we got to remember our technical stuff and get online and get through all these, the different conferences linking up here. It really was Zoom and the ability to use Zoom that frankly brought our 3 agencies back together. Because when we were trying to do it in person, if some of you may remember, if there's any veterans out there, it was hard because that was about a day's worth of travel for everybody to get together in person. When we started reconvening and reinvigorating the working group, that led to an MOU that was signed in December 2020, and it really led to the structure that you have today. 4 agencies from each partner organization, not in stone, but roughly 3 public meetings each year. And the idea is we're stronger together, right? We have a lot of interconnected issues across Northern California and the Northern San Joaquin Valley and the Bay Area and our greater Sacramento region, and we need to band together on those. We need to be a unified voice, especially in the state legislature, so we really get the investment that we need. We, I think, also landed on pretty early something that I know, at least from a lot of our staff here in the room, and we have Dustin Foster here, who's really our lead on the SACOG staff for Mega Region, what we call a Mega Region dozen list. And again, if you're a veteran of this group, you know this by now, you know it pretty well, and the branding of it. The idea is simple. Each region has a lot of priorities, but could we boil it down to 4 for each of our 3 agencies? Wrap those together, make it a list of a dozen projects, and then collectively get behind them. Collectively, not only advocate for the projects in our own regions, but to actually advocate for each other's projects, particularly those that are some of the highway network and the managed lanes and the passenger rail projects that truly do connect our mega region, whether it's through freight, passenger rail, commuting, long distance travel, going to zero emission. And here's just a sort of an example of some of the awards through SB1, and you heard from Manny Leon earlier, but some of the things that we have been successful in helping each other get funded over the last 4 years. The TSEP program is the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. So we were really grateful that our partners here across the mega region helped us on the YOLO Managed Lanes project, succeeded in getting $105 million allocation from CTC. MTC's Rail Safety Enhancement Program in Alameda County got $30 million funding. We had the truck scales replacement in Cordelia and the Bay Area with the TSEP, the Trade Corridor Program, and the Port of Oakland Green Power Microgrid. These got funded. And for some of these projects, actually, what it meant is we were successful as a group, and those dropped off the list, and new projects came onto the list, so we could keep a focus on a dozen projects and keep going. We mentioned a little bit, and we're going to have an item on our advocacy day coming up this year, but we have done those advocacy days together collectively in the past. and they've been tremendously helpful. We have a brochure for the Mega Region update, and we again offer letters of support for each other's projects, both for SB1 but also for federal programs. I will just mention, in addition to the state capitol, and I know we all have our trips back to Washington, D.C. Ours is called Cap to Cap. We have other trips that MTC and SJCOG take. We use the Mega Region in our federal meetings. We let our congressional representatives know. Of course, a lot of our congressional districts and even our state legislative districts, right, cross boundaries across the Mega Region. And I got to tell you, we get such positive feedback that we are doing this voluntarily. We're doing it because we know it's the right thing to do, and we're doing it because our region truly is more connected than ever. So it goes over very, very positively back in DC, both with our congressional delegation, but also, frankly, with the administration and USDOT and FRA and many others. And then just to close on this, we've got the Mega Region agency websites. Each of our agencies maintains a site and a link through each of our portals and our websites for the activities and the agendas and the projects that we all share. I'm really glad that we're able to today obviously kick off with Mayor Darrell Steinberg and Manny Leon, because this is going to be an important year ahead, both in terms of state policy. You heard Darrell Steinberg talk about a modernization of SB 375, which Bless Shepherd will talk about in a little bit more detail, but also funding, right? Our funding resources are going to be, I think, getting more constrained. We may have a federal reauthorization bill this year. We hope, fingers crossed. But it is a challenging environment. We all know this, right? And we know it at the local level and the regional level, which again, I think is why it is so important that we can hang together, that we can support one another, and we can speak with a single voice. So with that, back to you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, James. Any work group members have questions or comments on this agenda item? Not seeing any. Is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to a great year and a busy year as our work group. So next, we're going to move on to agenda item 7, which is the Advocacy Day priorities, the state transportation funding, regional early action plan funding, and SB 375 modernization. Executive Director Corliss from SACOG and SACOG staff Bless Shepherd will present the 3 priorities for Advocacy Day, and then we'll open it up for discussion among the representatives. Do you have a council member a question first?
I have a bridge question, I think, between what you just reported on. There's likely to be a state ballot this year on CEQA reform. Does that tie into what Mayor Steinberg was talking about, into what we're looking towards?
Related, but not directly. And so maybe, yeah, we're aware, obviously, as I'm sure the other agencies are, of a number of ballot measures that might have a pretty significant either policy impact or financial impact, one way or the other. So certainly that is something I really do hope on Advocacy Day we can get as many of all of you as possible, because I think what we want to do on Advocacy Day is give you all in April a sort of an update, right? A state of play. We'll know, I think, a little bit more than Director Hadeshelt on what's happening in the terms of the ballots and which one are looking to qualify, and especially the ones that are sort of related to the things we're working on. So I would say adjacent, but not directly related.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Corliss.
Yeah, so again, in some ways, this agenda item is a deeper dive from a bit of the higher level overview to some of the topics. And we wanted to give you all a preview of these topics, and we'll do more of an orientation for you, all of those of you that are able to come in April. And so without further ado, I want to turn it over to Bless Shepherd on our government and public affairs team.
Thanks, James. Good afternoon, Chair Bradford. Congratulations, and good afternoon to the members of the Mega Region Work Group. So my name is Bless Shepherd. I'm State Government Affairs for SACOG, and I'm here to give the suggested topics for our advocacy day on April 9. This is what we're hearing from our regional partners and what we're seeing the state also signal that these are areas of concern. So just, there we go. Thank you. A little bit of a difference on what you have on your agenda. We, apropos to what we heard from Manny, right, in terms of transit funding and how important transportation funding is, the declining funds for that, how will that impact our projects, and for transit in particular. So the governor's January budget reflects a 3-tier cap and invest structure. And because revenues are falling in the 26-27 fiscal year, the programs in tier 3, which is where funding sits, those are all, we're seeing those funds going down. And those include the SB 125 programs. So for transit, that means funding that's well below what the law allows. The Transit Intercity Rail Program, or TIRCIP, and the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, or LC-TOP, those are funded roughly at 70% of statutory levels, which means, right, limiting agencies' ability to maintain service and expand where demand's growing and really advance those projects where VMT is reduced in greenhouse gas emissions. So that's priority. We are suggesting transit funding and transportation funding. And then to what Senator Steinberg had mentioned, which is the modernization of SB 375. As many of you know, the big 4 MPOs, in collaboration with CalCog and with Senator Steinberg as our guide, we're developing strategies that will update 375 to better align the process to focus on implementation so that we can effectively get those greenhouse gas reductions that we are working hard to do. So we've been working closely, again, with state and regional partners. These include builders, business leaders, environmental and housing advocate groups, and local government to achieve a meaningful update of the law. The goal isn't to change SB 375's intent. We want to make sure that's clear. It's to strengthen how it works in practice. So we have 3 objectives that we want to attack in this effort. And this is, as was shared earlier, this is a co-sponsored bill by the Big 4 that we aim to introduce in about a month. And we want to focus on implementation. What does that mean? It's better alignment between SES priorities and state funding. That's where the REAP program comes in. We're trying to look for a more stable source of that funding, which for SACOG region, it's our Green Means Go program. And it really gives us flexible funding, funding that the state doesn't normally do. And so these are dedicated resources for MPO and thinking about ways to streamline the processes so regions can spend less time on planning and actually delivering on projects. Our second goal is to have our SESs consider multiple objectives when establishing our GHG targets so that regions have the flexibility to in their implementation of their SESs and manage those trade-offs, excuse me, and balance priorities while we are advancing our climate goals. And then number 3 in our objectives is to make our SESs a trusted roadmap. So make our GHG targets more consistent, more understandable, so our SESs can function as a credible and transparent planning tool so that we can strengthen more policy decisions. Our agency decision makers, the public, can understand them better. And the hope is that we trust our SESs and we can have other, more difficult conversation on how we are going to achieve the goals for our regions. Then the third Advocacy Day focus that we are suggesting is our Megaregion dozen. Of course, thank you. We want to take the time to remind the legislature, the agencies and staff about our 12 key transportation projects and improve the movement of people and goods across regional boundaries. Again, taking stock of what Manny shared with us today, how does that affect our key projects in the regions? I know James wants to open this for discussion, but just to give you a sense of what to expect on April 9th, we are going to get help from our state lobbyist, SACOG state lobbyist, Chris Lee with Political Group, who is going to do all of the meeting requests with the agencies and the legislature and their staff. Executives and staff from MTC, SJCOG, and SACOG will all coordinate and develop talking points for each of these meetings, so you will have all of the information that you will need. We'll be coordinating with you to understand and determine who can attend, and we will be making sure that we give you all of the information so we can get ahead of your calendars. And the goal is to have at least one rep from each agency in attendance. And then the morning of Advocacy Day, we typically meet here at the SACOG offices between 8:30 and 9 just to ground ourselves before our meetings across the street. It's also helpful to have a room in the swing space where many of these meetings are going to happen. That way we're not going back and forth between, it's like a 15-minute walk. It's not that bad, but when you're waiting for your meetings, it's much more convenient to have a meeting room in the swing space. So more information on Advocacy Day on exactly which meetings we're going to schedule for you, but that's sort of a flavor of the day. And those are the 3 topics that we are suggesting we focus on for our time on April 9th. And happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Before we get to questions, I just wanted to reiterate that the one rep for each agency is the minimum. So, we'd love to have all 4 reps from each agency if that's at all possible. I know, setting aside a whole day can be difficult. So especially for those that have to travel a little further than us here in Sacramento, but please do all you can to attend that day. I think, us showing up in numbers really helps deliver the message that it's important, what we're advocating for. And I want to echo what James said earlier about how well the Megaregion dozen is received by the legislature and the legislators that we meet with, both in Sacramento and when we've taken it to DC as well. They're just really impressed by that, and we just hear tons of positive feedback on that, and we've seen success. So I think it's a great thing to continue doing, and I'm glad we're continuing to do that. So any questions from staff about the Advocacy Day? To staff, I guess. Let's see.
The attorney voice.
Hey, this is Mayor Ariola. We were wondering if we could make sure that we're meeting more often with the actual staff that can help us with funding our Megaregion dozen. Is that a possibility for us?
Oh, the question is, can we ensure that we're meeting with the appropriate folks at the state level who can actually help grant the funding that we want for our Megaregion dozen?
That is absolutely the goal. Yeah, no, we, in the past, we have been able to, and again, as Bless was saying, work with our lobbyists to set up meetings with a variety of, committee staff and the right committees, as you just heard from Manny earlier, our various state representatives, but also the agencies, right? Whether it's CTC or CalSTA or Caltrans. So stay tuned. But the idea is we are talking to the right people at the right level, and we are delivering the right message.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything from MTC folks?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything besides what was mentioned, the talking points that we will be provided and additional information the day of or potentially before that will be helpful in helping people prepare? Okay. But one thing for me, the bullet items under the SB 375 modernization seem a little bit kind of big picture to me. And so more concrete examples of what those things really are would personally be helpful as we get closer. So I really have a better understanding of what that means.
Absolutely. We are developing an outline right now. We are soon to share those details with you. I know that at least for SACOG's, I guess PI committee, we are going to try to go over those, the goals for SB 375 and obviously share it with the Megaregion working group as well.
Okay.
As we get information.
Great. Anything else from any committee members? Okay. Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Okay. We'll move on to agenda item 8, which is public comment or other business. Do we have any general public comment for things not on the agenda?
There's no general public comment.
Okay, so then we will move on to agenda item 9, which is adjournment our next meeting. So just a reminder, our next meeting is planned to be held Friday, April 9th for Advocacy Day here in Sacramento. And we will note the specific time and location, although it was mentioned it will be beginning here at the SACOG offices, probably around 8:30 or 9, but we'll get more specifics as it gets closer, right? It's a Thursday, sorry. Thursday. Okay, April 9th is correct, so. Awesome, well, I thank everyone for participating today. And you guys have an awesome weekend, and we will see you in April, if not before.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Meeting
Thank you.
adjourned.